behind the little bit of a technical snafu, folks. Apologize. We welcome you into the show now. Joey Wright and Cody Roskins up top, ready to go. Cody, this game, as I don't think our viewers heard us a moment ago, means so much to both of these teams, especially Canton, as they need to win to get into the postseason. This week, next week, and the week after, that's just to have a chance. 5 wins puts them right on that playoff bubble. It starts tonight against a tough 4-2 Washington team.
Yeah, on the outside looking in, but they still control their own destiny to a degree, Joey. Canton, with 3 straight wins, put themselves in the conversation for postseason play, but they've got to go up against a tough Washington side that, again, last week had a really great win on the road against Pekin.
Pekin and Washington did go after it last week. Cody, you and I were there at Pekin Memorial Stadium. 22-21 Washington over the Dragons. Isaac Mapson scoring with just 8 seconds left on a 9-yard touchdown pass from Noah Burlett. That was the touchdown that set Washington up for a chance to go for 2. They went for 2 and won the game as the Little Giants, trying to play spoiler tonight on their home field, make their first appearance. A good crowd in Canton going wild. They bursted through that sign, or burst through that sign, I should say, and they're ready to go. For Canton, they run an offense that is predicated around quick passes to the outside and a strong run game. We'll take a look at our keys to the game, but when we look at Canton's key, you'll see LaShawn Wallace's name down there, bottom right. He's not expected to play tonight. Last second decision that we learned of when we got here. So without LaShawn Wallace in the lineup, what does Canton look to do tonight?
Well, like you said, Joey, they've got to get it going in the quick passing game. Much like the New England Patriots used to do, their short passing game was an extension of their run game, and it helped them set up their run game, and vice versa. The run can help set up the pass. But for Canton tonight, they've got to do it a couple of ways. They got to stay in short yardage situations. They can't get behind the chains, and they got to keep that yellow laundry off the field. They
certainly do. And for Washington, when you talk about dynamic offenses, Washington leads the pack in the area, it can seem sometimes. Got behind last week. They were able to come back and key a win against the Pekin Dragons late. That's where you see stay the course up top. They got to force turnovers, and they've got to set the pass up with the running game.
Yeah, so Canton's got to do a good job of setting up the run game, Joey. Here as we get the opening kick underway.
We are underway. 2 back deep for Canton. Opening kick bobbled at the 10-yard line. Canton's going to pick it up, and the Little Giants trying to make something out of this. They will not. And the Little Giants will get things going just beyond the 10-yard line. As we get ready to roll here, our first look at the Canton offense, keyed by quarterback Nick Oldfield. No LaShawn Wallace in the lineup tonight for the Little Giants. With such a long field in front of them on drive number 1, Cody, what's the game plan here coming out of the gates?
Again, Joey, though, you got to act like this is still first down at the 20-yard line. You still have to come out and execute the offense. Just because you back up 10 more yards than what you expected doesn't necessarily change your game plan here. They're still going to throw the quick passes, quick-hitting run game. They've got to be quick and downhill tonight.
2 wide receivers for Canton as the Little Giants start things out. Little Giants coached by Nick Wright and Darryl Crouch, the head coach of the Panthers, as our first play from scrimmage goes for a gain of 1. Don't want to call that a generous spot, likely a good spot, but to us didn't look like he had a lot going there early on.
Yeah, going out in the eye strong, just an off tackle to the right handoff, trying to get your fullback to lead block for your running back out in space that time. Great job by Washington to contain the edge.
Kate Bescheid in on the tackle for the Panthers as Colton Hess runs out onto the field for Canton. Hess, the senior two-way player. We'll see him play a little receiver tonight, see him play a little defensive back as well. Heavy set in there with Oldfield. And Oldfield dropping back first pass of the game. In trouble, escapes the pocket, tries to stay on his feet, but that Washington defense breaks through and comes in for a big tackle.
Yeah, and that could be a theme tonight, Joey. Canton's got to do a good job of giving their quarterback time. Granted, they're going to do a lot through the air in the quick passing game, intermediate passing game, but he still have to have time to throw the ball. That time, it's a coverage sack for Washington.
Cougar Werf in on the tackle. Had a big pick 6 against Morton 2 weeks ago as Oldfield gets the play from his offensive coaches. Nick Wright, again, the head man in Canton. Canton 2-4, needing 3 wins in a row to have a chance at the playoffs. Washington could become playoff eligible, 4-2. Well, they would move to 5-2 with a win tonight as Oldfield goes over the middle to Hess. Off the fingertips of Colton, Hess falls harmlessly to the turf. Sets up a big 4th down and 11, and Cody, an obvious punting situation here for the Little Giants.
Yeah, and again, they try to drop back to pass, running a slant route over the middle that time. Even if he catches it, I'm not sure Hess has a lot of space to work there, Joey. That's a safety and a linebacker meeting you there. I'm not sure that's a high percentage play, but trying to maybe just gain some yards for the punt. But like you said, they'll go ahead and punt here on 4th down.
Special teams on for the Little Giants. 4th down and 11. Back deep to return for the Panthers, Drew Lewis, as it's sent away by Oldfield. Lewis had a big kickoff return last week against Pekin, went for 85 yards. Takes this one just beyond the 50 and inside the 40-yard line goes Drew Lewis. Great two-way player for the Panthers on the football field, also plays basketball. He's a big part of Eric Schermerhorn's Washington Panthers club that won the Mid-Illini Conference title 1 season ago. Here's the Washington offense, Cody. They can do it all.
That's right, Joey, and we saw them do it all last week. They go in the wishbone, they'll go out in the eye, they'll even go out in the shotgun and spread it out, which is what they had to do on their last drive against Pekin to go down and eventually take the lead. Looks like they'll start out in the eye here. 3 tight ends, 1 wide receiver, very physical formation.
Going back to Washington's win last week against Pekin, they were down 21-14. Drew Lewis, a nice kickoff return, got him to around midfield, and then in 1 minute and 44 seconds, they drove down the field and won the game. Touchdown and a 2-point conversion as Thomas Borges starts things off for the Panthers, goes up the middle, a nice gain. We're going to see a lot of that between the tackles from Borges.
That's right, Joe. That's kind of his game, so to speak. No matter what formation they're coming in, Washington's looking to get downhill. They want to be physical between the tackles, and they'll even pull the guards from time to time. But a lot of their scheme in the run game is based on man-to-man blocking.
2nd down and 6 coming up. Bescheid and Borges back onto the field with Burlett, Noah Burlett, having a good season for the Panthers. 2nd-year varsity starter. He's a senior now, and he pitches it back to Borges. Borges outside has a 1st down, and then a little bit. Everyone's got to get out of the way down there on the sideline as Borges gets out of bounds, moves the chains, and the Panthers offense getting going early.
Yeah, that time they hit the edges trying to test the contain of these defensive ends for Canton. That time they go ahead and run a little toss play to the left-hand side, get the fullback out as lead blocker, pull the left guard, get him out in space. Again, Joey, they're able to kick out that outside threat for another 1st down.
9 minutes and 16 seconds left in the opening quarter. Joey Wright and Cody Roskins in on the call. Matt Harrington behind our computer tonight. John Michael and Francisco Alonso in with you as well. John Michael on our camera, Francisco on our social medias. As it's a handoff to Borges, and Borges is rebuffed. Want to go back to Canton's Week 3 battle against Morton that we saw on ClutchSportsIL.com, Cody. Went back and forth early on. Morton controlled a little bit of the early portion of that one, but a big pick 6 from Kai Correa really kind of changed the tone of the early part of that game. So this Canton defense can step up and make plays of themselves.
That's right, Joey. And they're going to be put in here with their backs against the wall on 2nd down and 9. It looks like we will have our first penalty of the game.
Early indications are that it will be a Panthers false start, and it is. Anytime you see a play whistled down that early, that's the case. You see that beautiful flag graphic on the bottom of your screen, and now, Cody, the momentum starts to turn. Canton was watching Washington drive down the field, stopped Borges on the last play, and a false start here. 2nd and long, anything could happen.
That's right, and this is kind of reminiscent of how Washington started a week ago. Kind of slow, methodical. I mean, they didn't really do a whole lot. They were kind of lethargic with their approach on offense. Some penalties here and there kind of set them back and really killed some scoring opportunities as here they are now just outside the 25.
2nd and 14 coming up. Washington had to kick it into gear late last week to get the win. Borges gets an audible from Burlett and gets the carry, and he's going to go to the outside, drops the shoulder, moves the defense. Not quite enough for a 1st down, but Borges got close. And Cody Canton doing a couple of things here. Even if they don't pick up this 3rd down, they've got a very talented kicker in Paul Sporer. The senior has range from about 35, 40 yards out that we've seen this season. So the Panthers putting themselves in a decent spot here to get some points early on.
Yeah, and even if they decide not to kick for him, Joe, he was perfect a week ago, and they decided to sideline him for the 2-point try a week ago in Pekin. But again, like you said, a very reliable place kicker.
Washington head coach Darryl Crouch and an entire coaching staff on that Panthers team not afraid to go for it when they've got a chance. Early on, we'll see what happens, but first a 3rd and 4. Washington driving into the Canton red zone. First red zone play we've seen tonight. And it's a handoff to Borges. Burlett faked a throw after the handoff, and looks like Borges, stopped short.
That's right, Joe. He'll be short by a couple of yards. Sweep handoff to the right-hand side. Canton does a good job of, once he breaks up the middle of the field, puts that right foot in the grass, trying to cut up and gain some more yardage. And it looks like, Joey, they're going to go ahead and kick this ball.
Isaac Mapson comes off the field. Brock Pollitt comes off the field. And onto the field stays Burlett. Borges is out there with him. Washington's going to bring the heavy set out onto the field and try to go for it on 4th and 1. 7 minutes and 5 seconds left, a running clock as we work the early stages of quarter 1. Washington's going to go for it on 4th and 1. Here's Burlett. Burlett pitching back to Borges. Borges corrals it, tries to move forward, has the first down and then some. A good carry from Borges, looking a lot like the 2-point conversion that won Washington the game last week, and the fact that looked like he bobbled that and was able to bring it back into his body.
Yeah, mistimed pitch that time from under center for Washington. It looked like he maybe, I don't know if he was hesitant, maybe had a defender racing into his face there out of the corner of his eye, but Canton does a great job of, pursuing the ball to the sideline, but then those blockers get set up after so long that Borges is able to put his foot in the ground and cut upfield for another first down.
That first down, a 1st and goal for the Panthers. 4 plays between Washington and the end zone or Canton, and a big stop as Borges takes the carry again up the middle, and that time Canton was on it. Couple of Little Giants in on that stop. Trevor Putman was one of them. Braden Colbert another one, and Jake Miller, who also plays tight end on that Canton offense, was also in on that. But really a team effort there to get into the backfield.
That's right, and that's what Canton's going to have to do tonight. They have to gang tackle. They can't allow one-on-one tackling to be missed on the opposite side when they're on, Washington's approaching side here. Coming in to score, you just can't have those things, and with this dual fullback formation out in the eye strong, it's going to be tough to tackle.
Pitch back to Borges. Borges can't handle the pitch back, and Canton thinks they have it. They do. A turnover.
Wow.
You had the sense that might have been coming. Borges seems to have had a little trouble with those pitches so far tonight, and that time it cost Washington. Canton will take over.
Yeah, and that's the second pitch we've seen on this drive, Joey. Like either goes high or too far out in front of Borges, but a stop is a stop, so Canton will get the ball back. The bad part is, once again, they're starting inside their own 10.
If you were with us 4 weeks ago now for Canton and Morton, a very similar start to that one. Morton's early turnover went for 6 points for the Little Giants. This time, 92 yards separate the purple and gold from the end zone, and Jake Miller gets the carry to start this drive, takes it to the outside. No gain on that play. Actually, they'll move them forward about a half yard, so we'll see where they spot that. Call it 2nd and 9. How are you approaching this if you're Nick Wright and this Canton offense? Because you get the sense that points are going to be so crucial. You said at the top of the show that Canton's got to control the tempo of this game.
That's right, Joey. Canton has to, not necessarily control time of possession, but they have to have quality of possession. It doesn't matter how many chances they're going to get if they can't capitalize on it. And on the other side, Washington's got such a powerful offense, they can go up and down the field like we saw last week, but they struggle putting the ball in the end zone like we just saw.
Just under 5 minutes left in the first quarter. Here's a carry up the middle that's going to go for a couple of yards, not very many. Joseph Norton getting the carry there, and in the absence of LaShawn Wallace, who is so key for this Canton offense, we think we're going to see a lot of Norton tonight. He's a junior running back, also plays the defensive side of the ball. 4.5 minutes left first quarter.
That's right, and now here we go on 3rd down and 5, Joe. This is one of the keys to the game for us. They had to stay in 3rd down and manageable. That means 3rd and 5 and less. Here they are with their first quality 3rd down look of the night.
3rd and 5, 4:20 left first quarter. Dropping back is Oldfield. Oldfield, quick strike out to the flat. Flag comes in. Canton will have enough for the first down and then a little more. Spinning is Norton. He's got the first with the flag.
Yeah, that's in the area of holding, but they ran some linemen out in front, so this could be one of two things, holding or roughing the passer, and it looks like this will be coming back.
It was a big play for the Little Giants that will come back as the Little Giants offense makes that slow trot. Norton, a good carry, a quick little screen pass looking thing, and That's going to back Canton way up. A big hold. Didn't hear who got called for the hold. There were a couple of linemen there, and that backs Canton way up. So we talk about third and manageable. This is anything but.
That's right, Joey. Now you're in danger if you get a snap from the pistol or shotgun here and you get called for holding while the ball's in the end zone. That's going to be a safety. So this has got to be a quick pass, and hopefully you get some run after the catch.
3rd and 14. We saw plenty of RAC on that last play. A strikeout to Norton. We'll see what Canton quarterback Nick Oldfield can dial up here. He's got 2 in the backfield with him and 3 receivers. Drops back in the end zone, airs one out long down the sideline and off the hands of Jake Miller. No flags. Cody, do you like the call there? I think I do.
Yeah, I do. I was mainly watching the backfield there. They had 2 running backs in the backfield. They both set him up to pass block to give Oldfield some more time to throw. And like you saw there, Joey, it was just enough for him to be able to get that pass off down the far sideline and almost fit it in for a first down. But I like the adjustments Canton's already making to a Washington defense that shows they're going to get some pressure tonight.
Canton punting from its own end zone. Second time Nick Oldfield has handled the punting duties for Canton tonight. Drew Lewis, what a play there. He slipped and still elected to field the punt. Washington will get things going in Canton territory at the 45-yard line.
Yeah, and his knee was down when he fielded it, Joey. That's why the official will mark him right at the 45 and not further back.
Risky business, though, to try and field that one from your knees.
Yeah, and we saw some weird fielded kicks a week ago you and I did in Pekin, and seems like they're starting to translate over here into this week as we've seen a couple of kicks. The opening kick got muffed for Canton, and that one was fielded on a knee.
Quick housekeeping note, due to technical difficulties, we will hide our score clock down at the bottom of the screen. It was becoming a little too distracting there. Great effort from Matt Harrington, our producer, to try to get it going, but it's just not happening tonight, folks. We'll keep you updated on that manually. As we move along, Thomas Borges. Oh, and he's hit hard that time. I believe Norton was in on the tackle. Talk about a little manual labor down on the field as Borges has dropped a big hit. And this Canton defense comes to play week in and week out.
Yeah, you can say it was a big hit, Joey, but at the end of the day, it's still a 6-7 yard gain for Washington. That keeps them well ahead of schedule when it comes to the chains. And again, Joey, we saw it last week. Their running game will set up their passing game, and when that gets going, Joey, it's going to be hard stopping Washington.
3 minutes and 8 seconds left. 2nd down and 3 for the Panthers. Panthers can spread it out. They do so here with 4 receivers, but Borges gets the handoff again and has a little bit of a convoy as he gets it up past the 30-yard line. Thomas Borges gets enough for the Panthers' first down and then a little bit more to the 29-yard line.
Yeah, and that time, again, just an inside handoff, but the right side of that offensive line, the tackle and right guard, able to fold their way upfield with that right-footed lead run block. A lot of times teams will run to the right on 1 and run to the left on a 2 count, and that's just for the offensive lineman to know. And that left foot lead that time, not the case as they go with the right-footed lead, able to get upfield.
Under 2 3/4 minutes left, 2:35 as that clock continues to run. So nearing the 2.5-minute mark in the opening quarter. Again, Washington spreading it out, and Noah Burlett's going to keep it himself, and he's dropped quickly. The Canton defensive line steps up, and specifically there, credit to Will Eskridge.
That's right, did a great job of taking on a blocker and got to the quarterback. Not necessarily sure you got a hand on him, but maybe just enough to cause the lose of footing there. Again, it'll be 2nd down and long, Joey, and if Canton can keep this in about 3rd down and 7-ish, it's going to bode well for their defense. Like you said, they thrive on taking the ball away with their backs against the wall.
Keep an eye on the far side of that defensive line. Looking from our side to the far side, he's the 3rd down the line. Will Eskridge, 51 in purple, an imposing presence. 2nd down and 10. And Burlett will drop back to pass. Quick strikeout over the middle to last week's hero, Isaac Mapson. Mapson won't have enough for the first quite yet. But a good job of hauling that one in and staying with it. Those passes over the middle, especially when you've got a linebacking core as good as Canton's, can be tough.
Yeah, and that's a tough catch to make in traffic, Joey. That's one of those where, you know, it's tough as a quarterback. You hate to leave your wide receiver out to dry when he's coming off that inside slant route because he's beating a corner. And more often than not, there's either a safety coming down in support or a linebacker coming across the field to his left to decapitate your wideout.
Here's Burlett. Burlett a handoff to Borges. Borges through the middle, and he's got space to the 10-yard line. Thomas Borges right before that play, just as we've been singing the praises of Will Eskridge, he came out, Trace Rhodes came in. Might that substitution have created just a little bit of confusion on the defensive front for Borges to get that gap?
You know, you'd hate to say it's, due to one player, but at the end of the day, it's a team game, and so it's still up to the linebackers and D linemen to fit those gaps.
Here's Burlett. Burlett goes himself up the middle of the field. He's down. Call it a gain of 2, and certainly that's no shot at Trace Rhodes specifically, but how difficult is it to make that substitution, bring any combination of guys on or off the field, and have a guy like Trace Rhodes come in and immediately get set and get into the feel of the game?
It is tough, especially against a team like Washington where they're just going to come at you every snap downhill or sideline to sideline, just a little bit on the toss plays. But it's tough for a new body to get in and fill out the game.
Here's Burlett airing one up to Mapson, corner of the end zone. He made the catch, but he's out of bounds. And that was as close as you can get. Isaac Mapson, first of all, credit for making that catch. I mean, he caught the ball. He didn't get that foot in, but came about a half foot away from making another fantastic play.
Yeah, and I had a view of it just outside the window here to the right, but I think his toe did come down, and that's where, as the road team, you like to wear those white cleats instead of the black cleats, but that time that black shows up just a little bit better on the white sideline and maybe cost his team 6.
Saw the official down there joking around with a couple people. Did he make the catch? Did he not? Looked like the right call from up here, and it sets up a 3rd and goal from the 8-yard line. Here's Burlett. Pocket collapsing. Burlett's in trouble. Slips past a sack. Has some space on the far side, and Noah Burlett is stopped short. A flag comes in late. But Noah Burlett fumbled it, and Canton recovers.
Yeah, it looked like there was a scrum right at the very end of the play, but nobody was diving on the ground. But what would you know, Joey? For the 2nd time already, we've got a fumble inside the 5.
This one's even closer. It's right down at the goal line. What I thought was a flag was actually a referee tossing his cap in there to signal the spot of the fumble. And that is right on the goal line. Noah Burlett was a few inches away from a touchdown. Instead, Canton gets a 99-yard drive in front of him.
I mean, that ball is 3 centimeters from the goal line. I wouldn't be surprised if they just run quarterback sneak here to try and find a couple of feet of room.
On 1st and 10, 99 yards in front of the Little Giants. Canton wisely electing to go with an inside handoff and just push everyone forward. They're going to have a long walk across the field as the first quarter ends. Second quarter on deck. Still no score in Canton. A fast first quarter. Canton's defense came up with 2 big stops.
That's right, Joey. As we flip ends of the field, you got to like what you see from both sides. Canton sticking with it on defense, forcing 2 early turnovers for Washington. I mean, how many more points are you going to leave on the field in the last 2 weeks?
They've left potentially 14 on the board here with Thomas Borges, pardon me, not Borges, but Paul Sporer being an extra point machine for the Panthers. Canton's defense has been the story of the game, but their offense has been stifled by Washington's defense. One of these offenses is going to have to break through at some point.
Yeah, and we kind of were talking about it off air, Joey. It's going to be that team that makes the fewest mistakes, and right now that's been Canton. They're just waiting for that one big catch. We almost had one on the sideline earlier in the game, and of course they had a couple of handoffs that could have broke for big yardage, but the blocking up front just hasn't been quite there yet. And it's a really good Washington defense. They're able to net about 1.5 yards on that quarterback sneak. So 2nd down and long, and again, they try to get in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 and less, and that keeps them on schedule to run their quick intermediate passing game, which they haven't been able to do tonight because it's always been 3rd down and forever.
Washington has controlled the tempo on 3rd down. It's a beautiful night in Canton. Kickoff temperature was around 68 degrees. No wind, no chance of rain. A clear night. One that Canton hopes ends in a win in front of its home fans. Washington hoping to become playoff eligible with their 5th win of the season in enemy territory. Here's a pitch back to Norton. Or pardon me, it fooled me. A carry up the middle for a marginal gain.
Yeah, and again, Joey, they're just trying to find space, but now on 3rd down, you're going to have to throw the quick pass. It's tough because if you try and hand it off the middle, chance to get stuffed again, but you can't just punt on a chance to convert on 3rd down, so to speak. So you're going to have to try and find a route combination you like here, or maybe a matchup you like, but if I'm Canton, I'm not throwing towards number 4 in white, Drew Lewis.
But you're saying if you're Canton, you go with the pass here, even
yes.
so backed up?
Yeah, you got to find a way to get some space out here. An incomplete pass doesn't kill you. You still have to punt from inside your own end zone if you're going to go that route. And so they run a quick slant concept here.
Little Giants do bring 3 wide receivers, little motion on the line, and that looks like, to me it looked like against Washington. We'll see where they call that.
This will be against Canton.
Yep, could have been some offensive motion that keyed the defense to jump. It looked to me like E.J. Phillips moved first, but when they blow it dead so quick, as they will announce, it is a false start.
Yeah, and I like the play call there. It looked like they were going to go with some play action, try and hit a post route cutting in towards the middle part of the field. Not sure they would have had a whole lot of time to throw the ball because Washington's making sure they're trying to keep everything in front of them here, because if they force another punt, they're going to get the ball inside Canton territory again here. But sooner or later, one of these offenses, Joey's going to have to find a way to put it together. And with Canton, it could start right here with a long third down conversion backed up.
This is football's version of the parabola. That penalty doesn't really hurt Canton all that much. They only move back a yard. See if Washington can ride the Big Mo and capture the momentum from that play. Here's Canton airing one out. Far side, little contact there, no flags. Intended receiver, or Turner Plumer, pardon me, and good defense from Drew Lewis. No flags, and that was the right call.
Yeah, it looked like Drew Lewis was almost running the route that time for Canton. It was just maybe a tad bit overthrown. Not necessarily sure I like going for the whole 20-yard play there, but you get a quick comeback route or a curl route back there. Drew Lewis running downfield the full head of steam maybe isn't quite there to break on that ball.
Little Giants quarterback Nick Oldfield on to punt again. He's got to be careful here, so far backed up, and this punt not going anywhere to the Canton bench. They'll mark that out at the 32, maybe the 33 now, and the referee's going to move back towards the 22-yard line.
Yeah, initially I was thinking there's no way he's going to spot that beyond the 30. I mean, the ball was caught by a Canton Little Giant on the sideline right at the 30, so it had to go out before then, but looks like they got their spot right now. And who knows, maybe Canton will stiffen up again here in the red zone. This is where their defense has been best. They haven't been very good inside the 50 to 20, but when they get from the 20-yard line and in, it's been pretty tough to go against.
If you're just joining us, the Little Giants have forced 2 turnovers down in this part of the field, including Washington's last play from scrimmage, in which Noah Burlett ran 7 yards to the 1-yard line and lost the ball. 10:41, second quarter, as the Panthers start this drive. They're just on the doorstep of the red zone at the Canton 22, and here's Thomas Borges. Borges rebuffed, stays on his feet, pushed back past the 25. A flag comes in as he's brought down. They'll likely give him forward progress.
This will be a face mask.
But that face mask will erase that forward progress, or add to it, I should say, from a Washington perspective, erase it from a Canton perspective.
Yeah, but Joey, you have to like the gang tackling mentality. You saw 2 Little Giants that time hold up the ball carrier. The 3rd and 4th guys are coming in trying to punch that ball out.
It is announced as a face mask. Good eye, Cody, and the victim there, or the guilty party, Joseph Norton, the victim, Thomas Borges. But that has stood out to me, that aggression from this Canton defense. They're coming out and they're trying to make that big play.
And they know they have to try and steal some possessions in this ball game. You touched on it earlier. They're down their starting running back, Joey. So this defense is going to have to find a way to buy them some possessions on offense.
10 minutes, 20 seconds as Washington has a fresh set of downs after the penalty. Here's Borges. Borges bursting up the middle of the field, but that time a moderate gain. Got it to the 8-yard line. And Cody, it's becoming increasingly evident, at least to me, that this game is going to be won and lost down there in the trenches.
Yeah, and it's been kind of a give and take so far. I mean, Washington's been able to take whatever they wanted, like we said, from the 50 to about the 10-yard line. But once they get down here, for whatever reason, Canton's defense just hasn't answered. It's not necessarily because the field gets more compact, but they're just flying around like they're on fire, Joey, and that's what's keeping them in this ball game right now.
2nd down and 7. Borges looking far side corner. He's got it. Touchdown Washington, the first score of the game. Washington punches it in with 9 minutes and 53 seconds left in the second quarter. Extra point pending. We'll see if they bring on Paul Sporer, and they will. And you had the sense that it was only a matter of time before Washington found pay dirt.
Yeah, and that time again they go with a pitch, this time to the right sideline, or the right side of that line of scrimmage. And it's a good pitch this time. Again, we saw them fumble one away inside the 10 on their opening drive, and then on the second drive down the field, they fumbled inside the 1. So not straying away from their game plan. You like their confidence so far, Joey.
Sporer on for the extra point. Snap a little high, but the kick a line drive through the uprights. 7-0 Washington. So for Canton here, you go down 7 early, and first of all, if you're Washington, that's a big score, right? I mean, having been stifled so far, but for Canton, that offense has been stifled by the Washington defense. What are we looking for on this drive from Canton's offense and Washington's defense?
Well, for Canton, you got to start this drive from outside your own 15 and 10-yard line. I mean, you just can't start back there and expect to have a very long and efficient night on offense. It just stalls you out. It limits what you can play call on offense. And for Washington, they just got to keep controlling the edges. They know that their linebacking core and corners with Drew Lewis and company are good enough to contain everything on the perimeter. They've got to keep everything in between them when it comes to those defensive ends, and they'll be all right.
We'll see if they can pressure Nick Oldfield or if Oldfield can utilize that quick release arm of his to make some throws. Colton Hess and Joseph Norton back deep to return the Paul Sporer kickoff. 9 minutes and 53 seconds left as Sporer addresses the ball, sends it deep, and Canton will let it roll into the end zone, although a slow roll probably gave Canton fans here a little bit of a cardiac episode, shall we say.
Yeah, that's one of the drawbacks of playing on a natural grass field, Joey, is that when that ball hits the turf, it doesn't necessarily roll like it would on artificial or field turf. At the time, it's a lot more absorbing when it comes to bouncing. And you don't get those long, dramatic rolls like you would on a field turf playing surface. But like we said, Joey, they're finally starting at their own 20. This is the best starting field position they've had all night. See if they can't get something going now with their playbook finally full open.
Canton's pro-style offense spreads 3 out and 2 in the backfield with Oldfield. Oldfield, a handoff to Norton. Norton off 1 tackle, brought down by the 2nd. Panthers get in, and E.J. Phillips comes in and makes the tackle. And for Canton, it has seemed that they are a little more conservative on 1st and 2nd down. 3rd down, they'll take some shots, maybe try to catch that defense off guard. Do you think that continues here on 2nd and 9?
I think it does. I think they're going to try and see what they can buy here on the ground on 2nd down, and that sets up your 3rd down play calling if they want to go some play action. We saw them try and run it one time backed up. We haven't seen it since.
Oldfield again, a handoff to Norton. Norton stopped. Got to that defensive line and met with heavy pressure. A couple of Panthers in on it. Jack Gilmore primarily. Not Gilmore, rather, but Mason Geltz. Gilmore, number 20 for Canton. Geltz, number 20 for Washington. Well, they credit E.J. Phillips with the primary credit on that tackle. So 3rd and 6. It's what we talked about. 3rd and manageable.
That's right. Now you can spread the ball out here, which they will with 4 wide receivers. You're going to have a lot of man-on-man matchups. Yo-yo defense, you on you.
Let's find out who wins. Oldfield over the middle and off the hand of Jake Miller. E.J. Phillips got in and forced some pressure, as did McQueary for Washington. And Miller was open, just couldn't haul it in. Or always open as you can be, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure there's really something open as against this Washington defense. I mean, they are pretty stout in the back end and secondary, but had a window, but the throw was behind him, and that really limits your chances.
Timeout forthcoming, first of the game. Looked like Canton was coming out and potentially looking to go for it there. Washington calls timeout. Darryl Crouch wanted to get a better defensive look out there. And that would be a bold call if Canton would punt this on 4th and 6, still deep in their own territory.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a couple of, differing punts tonight. They had the shank from their last possession, but on this last time, 2 punts ago, they had one that sailed well across the 50 and was nearly muffed away by Drew Lewis. However, here on 4th and 6, I'm not sure I really like putting your defense back on the field, 25-yard line and in.
8 minutes and 41 seconds left in the 2nd quarter. Washington clearly anticipating a punt here as they bring 2 back deep to return.
Those can also play as safeties here, Joe, if they end up faking this punt. Looks like they will go ahead and punt. This will be a spread formation punt, though, Joey. So he's going to have a chance. Maybe he rolls out here, rugby-style kick. It could look a little weird.
Let's get weird. 2 back deep to return for Washington. One of them, Drew Lewis. The other one is Noah Burlett, and Lewis is going to get in there and barely haul it in.
Yeah, well, you said it, Joey. We got a little weird there. We had another muffed kick, our nearly third of the night. It's now been won by each team, but Washington is still, correct me if I'm wrong, Joey, I don't think Washington's had a started possession inside their own 40-yard line yet.
No, they have had good field position all evening long. And pardon me, that was Jack Lemus, not Noah Burlett, back deep to return the punt for Washington, but it went to Lewis just the same. 8 minutes and 34 seconds left as Washington starts this drive.
Expect another heavy dose of the run game until they stop it.
And as you say, there's Lemus, and Lemus did a great job of getting that back into his body just before he met a crowd. One player for Canton and one for Washington there. We're ready to greet Jack Lemus. Washington has just been a little off on those pitches tonight. We saw one fumble from Borges earlier in a similar play, and Jack Lemus doing a nice job of recovering, but that was very nearly trouble.
Yeah, and that's 4 that have been mistimed now by Washington. I'm sure they're going to try and correct that at halftime when we get there, Joey, but for now, I mean, that has just been one of their Achilles heels to this point. I mean, they scored their 1 touchdown on it, but they fumbled they've put one on the turf earlier. They've now mistimed a couple, and it's just a recipe for disaster if you keep putting the ball on the field.
4 wideouts. Burlett drops back over the middle, was looking that time for Isaac Mapson. Mapson, the senior, couldn't make the catch. Very nearly a tip drill. Canton had Isaiah Session back in a good spot for it.
Yeah, and he was pretty open there, Joe. I'm not sure how you missed that wide open of a target when he's got that much length on him, but a blessing for the Canton secondary because he was open with some space.
Called Jake Miller open a moment ago. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but Isaac Mapson in the open field that time. Just couldn't quite find the same page as Burlett. And here's a big third and 14 for Washington. Burlett steps up, pump fake. Now he goes over the middle to Lewis, and Lewis watches that sail over his head, incomplete. No laundry on the field, and that is a big third down stop for Canton.
Yeah, and that time Washington runs a couple of concepts. They run a curl and switch concept here on the near sideline, running a post and a skinny post / an in route out of the slot with Drew Lewis. That time Canton had it all pretty well covered up. The pump and go didn't really fool anybody. Drew Lewis still had a step on his man, and another missed opportunity for Washington.
So with 7 minutes and 39 seconds left, Sporer on for the punt. 1 back deep to return for Canton. Looks like Norton. Norton's going to watch it fall short, and Canton will down it at the 37-yard punt. Canton had perhaps a point that Washington touched that prematurely, but down to the 27, and that's where the Little Giants start. One of the better starting positions for the Little Giants tonight.
Yeah, and they will spot this right at the 34, Joey, so they're going to say that was touched by Washington. And when Canton comes out here again, they're shortening the distance they have to go here with these last couple of possessions, but they've got to find a way to get the ball in space. Running into that grinder of a defense is not doing them any good so far.
66 yards in front of Canton as they start this drive. 7:28 showing on the clock. Second quarter, and there's a nice pass, better catch out to Turner Plumer hauling that one in. I've got my my THs all screwed up today, but how about Plumer going down to the ground with that football?
It's because we sang "Ain't Too Cool to Dance" too many times by Lunch Money Lewis on the way into Canton today.
You want to get me going, that's the karaoke selection to do it. I was behind the wheel, but I was still getting into it as best I could. See if Canton can dance down the end zone or if Washington can crash the dance hall and come up with a big stop. Here's Oldfield. Oldfield coming towards us. He's going to get rid of it. Drew Lewis showing why he's so good in the paint there for Washington on the basketball court, getting back, nearly making the play. But it sailed out of bounds. A flag is down.
Yeah, and this will be going against Canton here. It's a little RPO game, but quarterback held the ball too long. Another great coverage play by Washington. They're going to call this probably on 15 in purple. He was the nearest wide receiver and shoving off. Drew Lewis that time. The defender had a chance at the interception and was probably fouled.
And that would be Plumer, the guilty party on the call. Canton has been guilty of a couple of penalties that have stalled out their progress tonight. If you're just joining us, Washington struck in the second quarter, early in the second quarter for their lone score. Washington 4-2 on the season, Canton 2-4 on the campaign. Washington would become playoff eligible with a win tonight. Canton needs to win out to have a chance at the playoffs. 5 wins qualifies you, but puts you on the bubble. 6 wins guarantees you a spot in the IHSA playoffs. More on that as we move forward, because if Canton were to pull this off tonight, Washington doesn't have the easiest schedule left. But it's Oldfield dropping back, stepping up in the pocket, firing one over to Dylan Watts, and Watts falls towards the grass.
Yeah, and well, Joey, like we like to say, it's 3rd down and nearly a country mile.
I think it's country mile territory. Your criteria for this we talked about last week.
3rd and 23 or longer.
How'd you determine 23?
Well, 3rd and 20, I mean, that's just too simple. I mean, that's just like moving the chains back. 3rd and 23 is not quite 3rd and 25, which is 3rd down in an eternity. So you got to give them the country mile at 3rd down and 23.
It's 3rd down and a lot of country yards, shall we say, 20 of them to be specific. That was one of our keys to the game for Canton. They had to stay in 3rd and manageable. They have, by and large, not done that tonight. Far sideline, Plumer hauls it in to the 50-yard line. What a catch. What a throw from Oldfield.
Yeah, threading the needle in double coverage, the pump and go. Again, it didn't necessarily fool anybody, but the safety late getting in over the top. Great catch by Plumer, and again, Canton survives on 3rd down.
To the 49-yard line, and that's the biggest play we've seen tonight from Canton on 3rd and 20. Fresh set of downs.
The biggest play we've seen tonight, period.
What a catch on the sidelines. Turner Plummer on the catch. And rolling out is Oldfield. Oldfield surveys, and that was intended for Colton Hess. Washington comes in and breaks it up. Seth Carbaugh made a nice play on that ball. Came in on Hess and got that hit in right when the ball got there. A clean play. 2nd and 10.
Yeah, it'll be 2nd down and 10, Joey, here. I wouldn't bet on them throwing the ball again, but I would probably guess they're going to run the ball here and try and set up a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7 or less. Haven't had a ton of success doing it, but spreading the ball out here a couple of times against a less stacked box might open up some things in the running game.
Oldfield handoff to Norton. Norton going east-west. Still on his feet as the entire Washington defense, except Drew Lewis, gets in on that one. Lewis standing at the 40-yard line was going toe-to-toe with Plummer. And Norton, ultimately, no gain, no loss, got right back to where he started.
And again on 3rd down, try and spread out the defense and find an open enough passing lane. It's going to be tough, though. Washington now knows to look for that pump and go concept. They've done it a couple times.
Last time the Little Giants faced a 3rd down, it was 3rd and 20. They easily got it. Well, I should say Plummer made it look easier than it was. This time they bring 5 wide receivers on half the distance. 3rd and 10. 5.5 minutes left as Oldfield creates some space. Everyone was going down the field, and that left the open of the field wide open for Nick Oldfield. And the Little Giants are driving.
Yeah, and spreading the ball, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to throw the ball, Joey. That, again, with man coverage, just carries everybody out away from the box. It's one-on-one with the linebacker at that point, and Oldfield's a good enough athlete to pick that up.
He can absolutely make plays with his legs. We saw it the last time we were out here against Morton. 5 minutes left in the second quarter. And the Little Giants have ambitions of tying this one up or taking the lead. Same set, 5 receivers. This time one more on the far side. And that's Norton coming in motion, but a flag down, likely a false start against Canton.
Yeah, and again, it'll get them backed up, Joey, but the spread formation, I'm noticing that Washington's lining up a safety and man-aligned defense over the top of their slot inside wide receiver. That doesn't necessarily mean it's man-to-man. It means he's going to shade, though, for that linebacker until they're able to shift out of their zone.
Watts jumped early. 4:49 left in the second quarter. Clock now winds as we hurtle towards the end of the half. Again, Canton showing 5 wide receivers. 3rd consecutive play they've showed this look, although Norton came in motion 1 play ago. 4.5 as pass goes out, and it's caught by Norton. Norton brought down. Panthers defense came in. McQuarrie again coming in and making a nice tackle.
Yeah, and that quad formation here, Joey, with the 4 wide receivers to 1 boundary. Really leaves an island on that opposite side wide receiver and one-on-one coverage. So they may be trying to set something up over there with a double move or an in-breaking route.
2nd down and 14 as we cross the 4-minute mark of the first half. Just 4 minutes until halftime. Canton did return the opening kickoff, so it's Washington's ball to start things off in the 3rd quarter once we get to that point. And Oldfield drops back. Steps up, looks for the far side, just barely got enough on that pass to clear McQuarrie, whose outstretched hand did not make contact with the ball and was intended for Plummer. So again, 3rd down and long for Canton. And we saw a conversion on 3rd and 20. We've seen success on 3rd and 10 a couple plays ago, that scramble from Oldfield. Now it's right about between the two. Not quite, but 3rd and 14 it might as well be.
That's right, and again, they're going to go 3 wide receivers on the far side, 1 here into the boundary. They're going to try and take their shot in one-on-one coverage.
Oldfield rolls out of the pocket. Wireman came after him, and now down to the original line to gain goes Oldfield. Jay Wireman was the pursuing defender there, 2-way player for the Panthers. See him on the offensive and defensive lines, and Oldfield did a good job of getting about to where the Little Giants started. Is it 4-down territory here? Early indications are that it is.
Yeah, and it's kind of that in-between territory, right? But they're going to take a timeout to talk about it. It's kind of tough, though, Joey, because a punt here really doesn't net you a whole lot of yardage. I mean, sure, you could pin him back deep, but you're still going to give Washington, who's shown ability to move the defensive line off the ball with about 3:12 to go. I think you really like your chances with some stuff you've seen in the passing game and the passing lanes that you have along that back end against the safeties to try and take a shot there.
We pay you the big bucks to break it down, but if I may, I think if you're Canton, you've got to trust the defense with how good they've been inside the red zone. They've forced 2 fumbles down there in very short field situations. So I'm with you, lockstep. And it looks like Nick Wright and the Canton coaching staff agrees.
Yeah, and this sends a message, right? He trusts his defense, and he's going to trust his offense to go out there and pick this up, to execute, right? The last couple of plays when they've had 2 running backs in the backfield in this passing situation, they've had them check up and pass block and chip on those defensive ends or nearest incoming threat, which would be those defensive tackles. They've done a great job picking it up. The passing lanes just haven't been there.
But Canton absolutely has the receivers to get a step on any defensive back in the Mid-Illini Conference. We've seen Plummer step up and make a couple of nice catches. Colton Hess, I should say, pardon me, Jake Miller. See what the Canton Little Giants do on 4th and 10. 3:10 left in the 2nd quarter. Oldfield, the lone man in the backfield, rolling.
He's got to get rid of it.
He's hit from behind and brought down. Ball loose. Washington has it. That doesn't mean a whole lot. It would have been a turnover on downs anyways, and the Panthers defense steps up and makes a big stop on 4th and 10. They'll take over with 3 minutes left. 3 minutes and 3 seconds if we want to split hairs in the 2nd frame.
Yeah, with the way Washington runs the ball, they could chew up the remainder of this half, Joey, with relative ease. We saw them do it a week ago against Pekin. They were able to take a drive that started with, what was it, a minute 33. They'll have to go down and win the game, and they had another drive that lasted about 8 minutes in which they didn't score. So they've got a lot of different tempos they can go with this offense. Be interesting to see if they try and sit on the ball, if they put on their wing-tipped shoes and try and go for the end zone.
And Washington may not even need the end zone. Paul Sporer has range from 35, 40 yards out. Saw him kick a 35-yarder in week 2 against Dunlap. A 21-17 loss for Washington. Ball's on the ground. Bescheid got hit from behind, and the Panthers will fall on it. That's right at about the 1st down marker at the 45, and they will move the chains. Recovered right at the 45-yard line.
Washington, Joey, has just come down with a case of fumbleitis in this game. I mean, that's now way too many balls on the ground for a team that normally prides itself in how disciplined it is carrying the ball and not turning it over. They've got the 2 turnovers via fumble, and they've got 2 more chances that they've put on the ground that haven't been recovered by Canton.
Jordan Martin fell on it. Here's Burlett going to keep it. Flag comes in right at the line of scrimmage.
This is probably going to be against Washington, Joey.
Near side referee, who was looking straight down the line, tossed the flag in. Borges on the carry, gained 3, but Washington marching it back. Likely a hold, and the clock stopped now at 2:35. As we await the call, quick word for our entire Clutch Sports Media team out here tonight. Matt Harrington just to our right on the computer. Camera operator Jonathan Michael. It's going to be an illegal cut block against Washington before we can get to Francisco Alonso, who's down on the field, our social media coordinator tonight. And that cut block is going to move Washington way back, a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, and Joey, the difference there being between a cut block and a roll block is the cut block is you can't block at the knees or lower, and you can't go for the kneecap area. That time they're going to say a lineman put his head down there and tried to cut the defender's legs out from underneath him. That's where the term cut block comes from.
You absolutely don't want to go after the helmet area, and there is the saying, low man always wins, but you can get low enough to cause injuries, and that's what that flag and that rule designed to prevent. First down and 22. Burlett's going to keep it himself, and he is wrapped up and brought down. Norton on the tackle. Are you an AEW guy or a WWE guy? Because Norton came in, and what a tackle that was.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like there was nothing but green grass for him to mash on there in the middle of the field. A nice quarterback draw call, but great job by the Canton defensive line. I mean, Joey, how impressed are you with Canton's defensive line in this game to keep them in this ball game? And right now they're fitting the run gaps well enough, and they're doing just enough to disrupt this Washington offense from moving down the field.
Washington's offense, one of my favorites in the area to watch with how much they can do. But this Canton defense, one of my favorites to watch as well, as they will play hard-nosed football start to finish. Burlett dropping back, couple of pump fakes over the middle, and it's intercepted. Big interception, it's Joseph Norton. Norton to the 40, still on his feet as he spins out of bounds, and a flag comes in late. Joseph Norton, the man of the hour in Canton tonight.
Yeah, and this will probably go against Canton here, Joey, with an illegal block in the back on a blindsided offensive player turned defensive player, because once you start pursuing that ball, you become an eligible defender, but you still can't come in on his blind side like that. And so this will get marched backwards most likely. But still, Joey, that's the third turnover forced by Canton's defense in the first half, and that's their Yep, and will be an illegal block in the back, Joey. But going back to what I said, that's the third turnover forced in this first half, and Canton's defense is doing everything and then some to try and buy their offense some more possessions.
Norton steps up, a big interception. 1 minute and 19 seconds left in the quarter and in the half. And that's big because Washington has the ball to start the second quarter, or the second half, I should say. We're in the second quarter right now. How big is it, and this is an obvious question, for Canton to get on the scoreboard here before the half ends?
Yeah, watch these two running backs be in pass protection once again.
Oldfield has a little bit of time and goes out to Plummer, and Plummer hauls it in. He's spun out of bounds by Drew Lewis. E.J. Phillips also in there for the Washington defense. He'll get a little forward progress, marked down at the 46. Had to make sure I had the right side of the yard line there. 46-yard line for Plummer. Clock runs inside of a minute, though. 52, 51, and 50. As Oldfield addresses the center, gets the snap, steps up for Plummer. Plummer down the field, and it's nearly intercepted by Lewis. That'll stop the clock with 40 seconds left in the half. Lewis, nearly a nice interception there as he was heading down towards the grass. Clock stopped at 40 seconds. Canton taking some shots.
Yeah, and I think they're starting to telegraph a little bit of their passing game here, Joey. They're just isolating, trying to find 1-5 in purple in some one-on-one matchups, even double coverage as we saw in that initial catch, but they've got to find a way to either run some switch concepts or some rub routes to get some more separation, because they're throwing in some dangerous airspace with number 4 and White lurking on the back end.
No one in the backfield with Oldfield. 40 seconds left, first half. Canton has had so much success with this set, and Oldfield's going to take it himself, looking to get out of bounds. Can't do it, but he's got the first.
Timeout, Canton.
And Canton wisely electing to take one of its 2 remaining timeouts. That would have stopped the clock just briefly as they reset the chains. 33 seconds left in a first half. This has the feeling of a 2-minute drill to win the game, like what we saw in Pekin last week, because you just get the sense that it's so important. Canton gets on the board here before Washington takes over with some adjustments made to start the second half.
Yeah, and if you're Canton here, you're seeing a lot more offensive life here than you did in the opening quarter. You weren't backed up. You're starting to open it up with the passing game. Oldfield, of course, again, great athlete, can move the ball with his legs. I'm liking what Canton's gotten going here, and for Washington, they've got to find a way to guard this and defend this quads wide receiver formation.
Quick reset for you, as we mentioned. 33 4/10 of a second left on the scoreboard. Our scoreboard camera inoperative tonight. Handling that manually. A 7-0 lead for Washington. 1 timeout left for Canton. 2 for the Washington Panthers. Oldfield lines up with Norton, and Oldfield drops back. Edge rush comes, hit from behind, he gets rid of it, and an interception, a diving play, and what a catch that was from Tyler Richardson.
And you like to say he's playing for the effort there, Dre, but you can't compound mistakes inside the same play. If you're going to be eaten up, you can't throw the ball late into the outside, especially against this defense. And again, just compounding mistakes are killing Canton on offense.
Nick Oldfield was dragging a Washington defender. I don't want to inaccurately identify the player. I believe it was Jace Harlan. There were a couple Panthers in. That edge rush came in, and you're right, Cody. Just tried to do a little too much, and the guy that successfully did too much was Tyler Richardson, like Superman, diving in, and there wasn't a part of his body that was on the ground as he made that catch.
Yeah, now Washington's going to get a chance to air it out.
Borges, fake handoff. Burlett goes down, probably, as we talk about not trying to do too much, a wise decision from Burlett to go down, keeps the clock running at 15 seconds and ticking. Washington will not be overly eager to run one more play. 10 seconds, now down to 7. 5 and ticking. And the Washington Panthers might run one more play as time expires. They will not. And that's how the first half ends. Washington 7, Canton scoreless. And although we only saw 1 touchdown in that first half, we saw plenty of action. If you like defensive football, you've got the game of the week on ClutchSportsIL.com.
Yeah, Joey, just a quick recap for the both teams. Washington can't get out of their own way, and for Canton, as soon as they get that offense firing, Joey, there's not going to be much that's going to stop Canton from taking over this game because their defense has been lights out.
7-0 Canton. Washington's defense has stifled the Little Giants at every corner. We will take a quick break on ClutchSportsIL.com and come back to recap the first half of action and get you ready for the second half. We'll get you some scores from around the area, too. A lot of good games in the Mid-Illini Conference alone, or really one good game in the Mid-Illini Conference this week. That is Pekin and Metamora in the lone field. So we'll get you caught up on that one and take you around the area. As it's Washington 7, Canton scoreless. This is Mid-Illini Conference football on ClutchSportsIL.com. Clutch Sports Media live tonight in Canton, Illinois. Welcome back for the second half of a Mid-Illini Conference battle. Washington 7, Canton still scoreless at the half, but they have been oh so close on a beautiful evening in Canton, Illinois. Kickoff temperature was right around 68 degrees. It was 68 degrees. Let's pinpoint that. That's what the temperature was. Just a little bit of a breeze, just a kiss from that air, and a little chance of rain, nothing crazy. And I'm Joey Wright with Cody Roskins. I'm no meteorologist, but it is a wonderful night for football.
Yeah, it's a wonderful night. If you love defense, Joey, we had at least 7 plays there where the ball could have changed hands for either team. 5 of those coming from Washington against Canton. Canton forcing 3 turnovers in that opening half. Washington forcing the 1 late to stifle a Canton scoring drive. And something's got to give here in half number 2, Joey.
It's Washington with the first crack at it in the second half. Kickoff tailing towards the 20. It'll stay inbounds just barely. The Panthers fall on it. Thomas Borges gets to the ball in time. And with 11 minutes and 58 seconds left in the third quarter, here's the first look for the Panthers in half 2. And before halftime, Cody, we talked about it. It felt like on Canton's last drive they had to score because you've got the sense that Washington has been close to figuring it out. Turnovers have really been their undoing, and just a couple plays where they haven't been on the same page. What adjustments did Washington head coach Darryl Crouch and his staff make in the halftime locker room?
Be confident and concisive when it comes, putting the ball in play, whether that's pitching the ball, the short passing routes, double cuffing the ball in traffic when you're running through lanes. Just those small things have cost Washington a handful of points here tonight. And Canton's been all but too happy to go ahead and take them off the field because of it. But Washington, you got to feel like if they clean that up, they'll be okay in here half number 2.
And the first play of the second half for Washington goes to Thomas Borges, and Thomas Borges has space. Washington has cleaned some things up in the halftime locker room, and Thomas Borges goes for 81 yards and a Panthers touchdown. First play of the Panthers run from scrimmage, a touchdown. That is Thomas Borges.
Yeah, and that's just man-on-man, hat-on-hat blocking. You find the numbers on one side of the field, simple handoff to the left-hand side, and he's off to the races.
81-yard touchdown dash from Thomas Borges completes the 81-yard dash in 12 seconds. That's not bad.
No, not at all. I mean, again, ran track in high school. He's a long-distance guy, but it's good speed splits that time for Borges. And if you're watching, you couldn't have dialed up a better start to this half.
Paul Sporer on for the extra point. Washington in business, and Sporer's extra point would have been good from about 30 yards back. It's good for a 14-0 Washington lead. Maybe the silver lining for Canton is because that score was so quick, you get the chance to get the offense out onto the field immediately, but still not a lot of positives for the Little Giants if they're looking to spin that. That's Washington coming out of the locker room and getting the job done, exclamation mark at the end of that sentence.
Yeah, and you're asking a Canton offense that struggled to move the ball to this point in the game, Joey. They've had a couple of big plays, but they've also had a lot of laundry on the field that's backed them up. They have to try and come out on this drive and assert themselves in whatever schematic fashion that's going to be, whether they're going to find some life on the ground or if they're going to try and keep the ball in the air and let their athletes make plays in space.
A near sellout crowd at Ron Fonstock Field has fallen silent as the Panthers go ahead by 2 scores. Line drive kick from Sporer falls in front of Colton Hess. Hess watches that fall at the 1, and he's going to return it. Has no choice. Washington could have turned that into a touchdown. A flag comes in as Hess is pushed back and back and back, and they'll whistle him dead at the 2. That flag down also at the 2-yard line. What a sequence of events.
Yeah, and it just can't happen for Canton. I mean, you got 2 return guys back there. It bounces in between them. And, again, with this natural grass playing surface, you know it's not going to take a real far roll. We saw one just barely dance over the goal line in half number 1. But it just can't happen, Joey. Again, like we said in that opening quarter, you start so far backed up, it just limits what you can call on offense because, again, you're just worried about Washington getting pressure up the middle and on the edges. It's just so hard on an offensive line that's really struggled to, move the ball down the field to this point.
That penalty does go against Washington, so it gives Canton a little bit of breathing room as they'll start this drive at their own 9. 11:37 left in the quarter. As you see at the bottom of your screen, Matt Harrington manually updating our clock between plays. So this drive set to start with 11:37 left. Flag comes in, and coming off the field, Will Eskridge. No flag, pardon me. They whistle and they allow the substitution.
Yeah, maybe just either an equipment malfunction with the mouthpiece, or maybe he's got a slight cut, but
it's Murphy that comes in for Eskridge as the Little Giants get things going. That time it's Norton the first carry, and Joseph Norton brought down right where he started. They give him a yard. 2nd and 9 coming up. And Cody, you hate to be overly critical, and if you're looking at that from a Washington perspective, talking about the start of this quarter, that's about as good as you could have hoped for, right? You come out, you go 81 yards on play 1, you go up by 2 scores. Kind of feels like you've broken through that wall that you couldn't quite get through in the first half. But for Canton, what a poor start to this quarter, and what do you do here 2nd and 9 to get some momentum back?
You just got to treat it like it's 7-0, and they're going to take their shot here.
Out to the far side, sticks and incomplete.
Yeah, going back to that, Joey, like you said, you just have to flush it, you know? I mean, you can't go back and change the past, obviously. But with 10:52, there's still a lot of time in this third quarter. And the way your defense played, you know, you got to imagine that long touchdown was the anomaly, right? Up until that point, they had been backed up and had to guard from the 50-yard line all the way to their own 10, 5, 1-yard line even before forcing turnovers. This defense is used to defending in their own territory in this game, but their offense just can't keep giving their defense a short field to work against.
Oldfield gets the play, comes back to the huddle. Canton has been good on 3rd downs. At least in the second quarter they were. And it's Oldfield out of the pocket. Pressure comes. He's got to be careful not to go down in the end zone. It'll be close. He's about a yard up. They'll mark him down at the 1. And Oldfield takes a sack, sets up a punting situation, a clear punting situation. As Canton starts that drive at the 9, and on 4th and 18, they're back at their own 1.
Yeah, and you got to watch out if you're Canton here because Washington could sell out for the block. Again, this ball backed up right at about the 1-yard line. They got 2 return men back. One of them is Drew Lewis, who, like you said, Joey, last week sparked their comeback with a long kickoff return for a touchdown, but he's one of their more dangerous special teams players.
Line drive punt from Oldfield, and that is going to be touched by Jack Lemus. Lemus has got to get back to it. He watches it roll out of bounds. Lemus tried to get up and make a play there, nearly caused another turnover. Washington a little loose with the ball in the first half. 3 turnovers and a couple more that could have gone for turnovers. A couple of fumbles and an interception.
And you just got to know better, Joey. It's like the ball takes a bad hop, that's okay. You know, that'll happen. But if the ball's, you know, over your head, that extended arms above your head catch, that's dangerous. Because, again, if there's a gunner coming from Canton, that could easily be Little Giant ball.
Washington back out onto the field. Panthers 4-2 and could become playoff eligible with a win tonight. Canton 2-4. They need a win tonight, next week and the week after, to preserve a chance at playoff eligibility. Here's Borges again. Borges has stepped up for the Panthers in half number 2. 2 carries that have gone for just under 100 yards combined. In fact, 98 yards between that first carry. An 81-yard touchdown, and that a gain of enough to make it 98 yards. Quick math in the head.
That's why we're not mathematicians, right, Joe? That's why we're comm majors, but again, Canton did a good job of gang tackling in that half, and we're just not seeing it here.
Here's Borges again, well over 100 yards in the quarter alone now as he gets in past the 20. And so we speculated coming out of the halftime break what adjustments Washington was going to make in the locker room, Canton as well. It appears that Darryl Crouch really got on his offensive line, told him to open up some gaps for Thomas Borges, and Borges has found them.
Yeah, and for Washington, again, you just got to hang on to the ball. They've gotten down here a couple of times. We saw, again, the fumble on the pitch, a fumble with a scramble to the pylon. You've got to take care of the ball here inside the 20.
Borges with Bescheid and Burlett, and that goes to Bescheid. Bescheid, the fullback, however you want to describe it, gets the carry there and gains a couple. We saw Bescheid last week against Pekin. Cody was the number 2 back for sure, but came in late in the game especially, had some big touches.
Yeah, he was the player of the game in that game, right, Joey, for Washington. He did everything. He did a great job as a lead blocker. He was out there in the passing game. And of course, he took a couple carries from that fullback spot, but he was just everything and then some from that defensive perspective as well. He brings a lot to this team. He's really the heart and soul of that unit.
Not a lot of teams utilize the fullback anymore. Bieshide also a defensive player for the Panthers. Key on that end of the ball. And here's Borges, the featured back, going out far side. Flag comes in.
Probably go against Washington here. Joey started to jump in on you, but looked like getting to the outside, maybe got a little bit of jersey, and that is the case.
And that will back the Panthers up. Bend, don't break. You hear that a lot in football circles. Canton really made a point to bend but not break early in this game, forcing fumbles inside the red zone, stepping up late in drives and making plays. See if they can get back to that here early in the third quarter. 8:22 as we get ready for a 2nd and 16.
Just like Canton, Joey. Washington's had a couple of possessions where they've been backed up. They haven't been quite as good as Canton when they're backed up. Still been plenty of efficient, though.
Burlett drops back. He's got Bieshide in the flat. Bieshide hauls it in. Up the field he goes, and he's brought down at the 15. Cade Bieshide. Call him a fullback, but he's a guy that can do a lot. Also, one of the Panthers that plays basketball in addition to football. Textbook that time, caught it, and turned his eyes up the field and got the motor going.
Yeah, kind of a glorified fullback in the backfield, Joey. He's not your typical sense. It's kind of like the Kyle Juszczyk, if anybody ever watches the San Francisco 49ers. They'll line him up a little bit everywhere, give him handoffs, give him routes in the passing game as a primary read. Of course, he is, like you said, Joey, a disruptor on the defensive side.
Niners have a couple of those larger guys that can get the job done. George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the league. Here's Burlett. Burlett's in trouble. Canton brings pressure. Burlett dances away from a sack. He's spun around and brought down. 4th down forthcoming. He's brought down at the 12, but Burlett had that pressure again coming from behind him, as we've seen a couple times tonight, and did a nice job of turning his eyes, locking in on that 1st down marker. 4th and 3.
Yeah, and it looks like they will change my mind, Joe. It looks like they're going to go ahead and run the offense back on the field.
They changed their mind. Paul Sporer was on, Washington's kicker. He comes off. A lot of motion up front.
Power set to the right. This is going to the right-hand side unless they try and get him to jump. They could easily take the delay of game as well.
We can see from here Burlett calling out a hard count. Play clock down to 4-3. Play clock at 1. Burlett has no intention of spiking the ball, or snapping the ball, I should say, and a timeout called by Washington as the play clock runs down to 0. No.
Fancy way of saying delay of game for those at home.
I was going to say. Noah Burlett, and indeed, it's a delay of game. Washington does not get the timeout in time.
No, and it would have been really, I wouldn't say foul the officials to give him that timeout, because that play clock, Joey, you hate to criticize the officials, but was sitting at 0 for a little bit.
Still 4th and 3 as Paul Sporer comes on. 35-yard field goal up and good from Paul Sporer. Officially ruled a 34-yarder. He was a little bit up from that 7-yard mark, but from the 18-yard line and 34 yards out, Sporer knocks it in. 17-0 Washington. If you're Canton, you get out of that without allowing a touchdown, but if you're Washington, good to get points on 2 drives in a row after not always having that work your way in the first half.
Yeah, and sooner or later this offense is going to have to play complementary football and help out their defense. They can't keep putting them in the short fields like they have and expect their defense to keep this at a 17, 14-point game. But this offense, sooner or later, Joe, you felt it on that last drive going to halftime. They had a little bit of rhythm when they went with just a little bit of tempo. That passing game caught fire just a little bit, and see if they can start things off by fielding the kick cleanly this time.
Paul Sporer back out on the kickoff attempt. A line drive right at Colton Hess to flex off Colton Hess, and he's going to have to make a play. Touchback as he goes down inside the end zone.
Well, good news is, start at the 20.
And Canton has not always had great starting field position tonight. And when we look at the big picture for this Canton team, wins this season against Limestone and East Peoria, 31-19 win against the Rockets last week. They close with Washington, Dunlap, and Metamora in order, needing to win all 3 of those games to have a shot at playoff eligibility. And they need to get going here, down 3 scores midway through the 3rd quarter. Keeper for Oldfield. Oldfield brought down. Hugerwerf and Phillips for Washington in on that one. Curious to see who gets credit for the tackle. See, he pulls his shoulder pad up, and it is E.J. Phillips that is credited on the tackle. Hugerwerf, a big pick 6 against Morton a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago to be exact.
And that time, Joe, just ran a little bit of veer motion that time, get the wide receiver in the slot, moving across formation, see if it's man. And if it is, you can read that D end. If he crashes, hand it off. If not, keep it.
Norton goes in motion. Oldfield fakes the handoff, throws over the middle, and it's intercepted. The 2nd pick for Tyler Richardson. He's looking for the far side pylon, near side pylon. That would be relative to us. Either way, Tyler Richardson has a pick 6 in Washington.
This will be coming back, Joey. This will be a still Washington ball, but a illegal block on the return.
Much like we saw on Canton's interception earlier, that was called back. Well, that'll be roughing the passer against Canton, or against Washington, pardon me. And
so that'll stay Canton ball.
Canton gets a break. I saw what you saw there, but as we turned our attention down the field, Oldfield took a shot. That keeps the Little Giants on the field and moves them up a ways. Bit of an artificial start to the drive, but Canton could capitalize on this just the same.
Yeah, and again, it just takes that little bit to get of a spark going, and that's what happened on their drive right before the end of the half, before, of course, they had their costly interception. But once again, Canton's going to stay on the field and have another shot at a drive.
So 5:31 showing, and now the clock runs as this drive restarts. 1st and 10 for Canton. Oldfield will hand off to Norton. Joseph Norton bounces away from trouble, and flag comes in as he goes down at the line of scrimmage. And early indications are that it was a face mask.
We'll see, though. It looks like we have an injured Little Giant on the field, Joey.
And a horse collar called against Washington on that tackle there. They brought Norton down a little rough.
Yeah, all the same. You still can't bring people down by the back plate of their badge, Joey, so another 15-yard penalty. Equals out the same as a face mask, but all in all, I mean, like we said in that first half, Washington just keeps finding a way to keep Canton on the field.
2 big penalties in a row will give the Little Giants a big help in the field position category. They'll mark this up to the 46-yard line.
I want to ask you an interesting question, Joey. And we don't have the stats on us. We just didn't have the setup for it today. What do you think Canton has more netted yards off of? Washington penalties or total yardage by their offense?
Well, those 2 Washington penalties we've just seen
add up to 30.
Yeah, add a lot to that category. Canton, if you're just joining us, folks, has had one really good drive tonight where they were able to march down the field, and Washington came up with a big stop as they got it to the 20, 30-yard line area, as the injured Little Giant is indeed Norton. We knew it was Norton early on. He walks off the field under his own power. But that is an interesting question because that drive alone was Canton's best, and they've moved the ball in little spurts. I'm going to say they have more yards of offense than Washington penalties, but it's closer than you'd like.
That's right, and again, that's not even a knock on Canton. That's just a knock on Washington to this point. They've been playing some really undisciplined defense and just gifting them first downs on yardage. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make there, Joe. It's just, for, again, a Washington team that prides themselves on how disciplined they are. I mean, they're up there with Dunlap with how disciplined they are. They are just shooting themselves in the foot tonight.
2 great coaches, Darryl Crouch for Washington, Brett Cazalet for Dunlap. They lead good discipline programs, but it does appear that Washington has unhinged is not the right word to use.
Gotten off the tracks a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit off the tracks. Unhinged has some
negative connotation.
Negative, yeah, for sure. But you look at Washington, and do you think maybe it's not necessarily nerves, maybe frustration with how disciplined and ferocious Canton has been tonight?
Yeah, you let a team stick around this long, you feel like you should be up. Again, Canton comes in 2-4. You don't want to necessarily say you overlook them, but Washington coming off a great one against Pekin, right? They're coming in as a 4-win team, if I'm not mistaken, and they're looking to spoil this Canton team's season right here, and they just can't seem to put them away.
Canton is playing tonight like a team that is laying it all on the line, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We've seen some big hits and some timely plays that have allowed the Little Giants to remain in this one. 3rd and 4 coming up. As we talked about for Canton, 3rd and manageable. This is exactly that. What's the play call?
I think they're going to go with a quick-hitting passing game, and if they get close enough, they'll go for it.
Oldfield hands off to Jake Miller, the tight end, and he's brought down quickly. Washington coming in. What a play from E.J. Phillips. A flash of light into the backfield is Phillips.
They're going to go for this, Joey. I like this play call.
Jake Miller's not an easy guy to bring down. Only a loss of 1 for Canton. Sets up 4th and 5. 4 wide receivers and 1 in the backfield with Oldfield. Shotgun look from the 41-yard line. Oldfield steps up, fires one outside, was looking for Miller. Richardson comes in, a diving attempt at deflecting that one. He didn't get a hand on it, but he was able to get in front of Miller and force the incompletion. When we look at a defensive player of the game to this point, Tyler Richardson, I think he's got to be the leader in that category. 2 interceptions, one of which was called back due to a flag, so only 1 in the stat column, if you will, but the one that was called back was a pick 6, and he's been all over the field.
Yeah, and again, even if he hasn't made the play, he's definitely forced the ball back inside for others to make the play. And once more, we'll see this Canton defense try and replicate the success they had in half number 1 and forcing some turnovers and trying to keep Washington out of the end zone. And who knows, Joey, maybe this Canton defense will take over, and who knows, they might get a score as well.
Kai Correa had a pick 6 against Morton a few weeks ago. E.J. Phillips into the game. He'll be the lead blocker for Borges as Thomas Borges finds a hole inside the 40. Down near the 35 as he's brought down, and they'll whistle him down at the 38.
And this will come back for a Washington holding call.
Early indications are that it will be a hold against the Panthers, and the Panthers are coming back. So you look at the last 4 or 5, not 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 plays. You look at 3 big penalties for Washington, 2 on the defensive end, now a big hold on the offensive end. Wipes out a nice run from Thomas Borges. If you are new to our broadcast, Thomas Borges with an 81-yarder that started the 3rd quarter, put Washington ahead 13-0 at the time. Paul Sporer kicked an extra point, and Paul Sporer kicked a 34-yard field goal a few minutes later to put us at 17-0.
They've got a little something going, though, with that halfback handoff just outside the right and left guards, though, Joey, and they'll go with it again.
Here's Borges once more. Past the 40. A couple of purple jerseys get there on the tackle. Flag comes in after the play.
This might be unsportsmanlike against Washington.
Well, we'll see. There was a little giant down on the turf. It didn't look too happy, so we'll see. Washington's moving backwards. So clearly the Panthers believe it's against them.
And it's a dead ball penalty, Julie, which means where the play was ended, that's where they tack off the yardage, not where the ball was originally spotted.
It will be 10 yards back from the spot of the foul. It wasn't unsportsmanlike, but nevertheless.
We're flirting with that second down in country mile range, Joey. We're flirting with it.
Earlier, Cody said his definition for blank down and a country mile is 23 yards. We're back to
23.
We're 6 yards away from that here on 2nd and 17. But the Panthers' offense has proven, especially in this second half, that they can step up and break off a chunk play as they see fit, especially from Thomas Borges. But it's Burlett, has all the time in the world back there, moves out, finds Drew Lewis, and Lewis had a couple of blocks, stiff-armed a man, and got inside the 45. And that on 2nd and 17 is about as good a play as you could have drawn up for Washington. 3rd and manageable. Spotted down at the 47-yard line.
Yeah, now the playbook's completely back to being open, right, Joey, for Washington. And run the ball. They've been averaging good yards on the ground. They haven't been scared to go for it on 4th down and short no matter where the ball is at on the field. So it's going to be a lot for Canton to try and cover up here on defense.
3rd and 4. E.J. Phillips and Thomas Borges. The backs behind Burlett. Burlett hands off to Borges. Borges
Stuffed.
met in the middle, and he's brought down. Stuffed indeed.
I didn't quite get the number on that, Joey. It might have been 5 in purple with a beautiful swim move to evade the fullback B-shot and plug that run up.
4th and 4, no gain, no loss. And Paul Sporer on to punt for the Panthers.
We've seen Canton, Joey, have trouble fielding kicks, so this is not a gimme return.
Joseph Norton back into the game and back deep to return. Sporer, high punt, won't go very far unless it takes a bounce, and it does. Takes a big Washington bounce, and that'll go down to the 15-yard line. Paul Sporer can do it all, folks. He can kick, has great range, extra point machine, and a great punt there, end over end. Took a bounce for the Panthers.
It's got to start here, right, Joey? I mean, it has to start here for Canton. They don't have a whole lot of time to play with anymore, especially Washington's running the ball and chewing the clock. Even if you force a couple of stops, you're still down 3 scores, and that's asking a lot of an offense that hasn't found points yet tonight.
It has to start here. That's exactly what I was going to say a minute ago. If Canton has anything left in the tank, they've got to get on the scoreboard sooner rather than later. It's Norton. Norton gets back what he would have lost and gains a yard to the 16-yard line, and the clock runs. We aren't long for the 3rd quarter. Canton might get one more play off. Oldfield in no hurry to get the play call. You see there the Canton receivers, linemen, and running backs. Oldfield still talking things over on the sideline. Play clock is at 16, so as the clock winds down to 6 and 5, and now inside 4, Canton has no need to run a play, and they won't. I forgot that Matt did a great job. Matt Harrington, our producer, did a great job of trying to keep up with that running clock. That was a really good job. I forgot that it wasn't running manually as it normally does. In any case, that's the end of the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, and we'll flip sides of the field. Canton did have the majority of its success moving the ball when it was running left to right, Joey, so we'll see if that changes or sticks the same here as they just, again, they've got to find an answer.
17-0. We saw Washington erase a 14-0 lead last week against Pekin, but that was a much different game, different weather conditions, different pace. Similarly, a defensive battle, but it just moved differently, that game did. Canton, though, with 3 timeouts and with a defense that has played well, Cody, I mean, if they can get a quick strike, if they can get in a minute, 2 minutes, maybe 3, not out of it.
No, definitely not, Joey. And again, like you said, the way their defense has been playing, just harassing ball carriers up until those last couple of drives. Again, they've only conceded, granted 10 points here in the second half. One of those, off a long 80-yard plus touchdown run. But this Canton offense, again, has got to find a way to at some point play some complementary football. And again, we know without their star running back, but that just means that everybody else has to step up and do their job and execute here coming down the stretch.
12 minutes left in regulation. This is where it has to start for Canton as Oldfield loses the ball. Busted play. He's still going to pass it down to Hess. Hess slides at the 40, but he can't make the catch. Credit to Nick Oldfield there as he had a little trouble with the snap, but recovered it. Made a good throw down the field for Colton Hess. And Hess just couldn't get back to it in time, but I mean, that's making something out of nothing.
Yeah, and Hess had a step too, and you got to think maybe if Oldfield has a chance to, set his feet plant and let that one rip down the seam, so to speak, he has a chance at that ball, but I'd like to see Canton trying to spread it out on those earlier downs and not just running it 1st and 2nd down and then chucking it up on 3rd and long, which again is what they have here on 3rd and 9.
3rd and 9.
So will be a false start.
Flag comes in, 3rd and 14 coming up. I want to go back, and the Canton-Morton contest, we reference it because we were there a few weeks ago. Not the most recent game Canton has played, but the play of that game was on a busted play, the running equivalent of what we just saw from Oldfield. LaShawn Wallace and Oldfield weren't quite on the same page on a handoff. Wallace was able to pick it up and find a gap, ran it in, I want to say 25, 30 yards for a touchdown. So this Canton team, well coached by Nick Wright, they can improvise when they need to and adapt to what situational football requires.
And it's going to involve trying to run a route combination here with these 3 wide receivers that gets one of them open on 3rd and long.
3rd and 14. Canton converted on a 3rd and 20 earlier, and Oldfield doing what he did on a 3rd and 10 conversion earlier, takes it himself, and he's got just enough for the first down.
And that's just a quarterback knowing what has to be done, right? I mean, you saw the 3 wide receivers here on the near side of the field all run. Middle wide receiver running the in-breaking route, 2 other guys trying to clear out space. But again, it's just that modified quarterback draw with 1 lead lineman. That's the case when you get those 3 or 4 defensive linemen down in the box. Again, Oldfield just doing stuff with his leg, Joey, doing just enough to keep Canton on the field.
After the big carry from Oldfield, Dylan Watts, Canton receiver, goes over, gets the play call, and delivers it to the huddle, gives his quarterback a little bit of a break. Clock running, just over 11 minutes left. Oldfield takes the snap, pressure comes, he's wrapped up and brought down, turned aside by Hoogerwerf. Noah Hoogerwerf coming in and getting the job done again. Such a key defensive player. Talking about Hoogerwerf for this Washington squad. Seen him make a couple plays tonight and this season. And it seems, Cody, just as Canton has that 1 play go right, they get that momentum. Next play or a few plays later, out the window it goes.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely not textbook, but from what we've seen tonight, Canton's played better from behind the sticks. Looks like we'll have a Canton timeout.
Canton using its first timeout with 10:15 left in the 4th quarter. Glad you're with us tonight on ClutchSportsIL.com. It's our video broadcast of the week. You see on your screen Mid-Illini Conference game of the week, although another good battle in the Mid-Illini Conference right now between Pekin and Metamora. Larry Larson and John Camosa over there on 101.1 ESPN Peoria. It's the Friday night showcase powered by Clutch Sports Media, so if you are able, certainly keep our broadcast on the screen, but if you're near a radio, crank that up and check that one out. Want to get some score updates from around the area here. Not sure if we'll get them in time for this timeout. But on 2nd down and 20, you mentioned a moment ago, Cody, that Canton has seemed to be better from behind the sticks tonight. What do you do? What's your play call when you get 10 yards behind the sticks?
Spread them out, right? Because spreading them out enables your chances for one-on-one matchups to be greater because it's harder to match up in the zone unless, again, you're super behind the sticks and they can just run cloud coverage, which is cover 3 on the back end. But Washington, from what we've seen tonight, has been largely a man-to-man coverage team, and so you're going to get a lot of those island coverages.
Here's Oldfield. Oldfield going to Plummer, intercepted by Richardson. A pick 6 he had was called back earlier. This one will stand. Tyler Richardson picks it off. He has been all over the field defensively for the Panthers. And with 10 minutes and 7 seconds left in the 4th quarter, that could go a long way towards sealing this one, Washington's 5th win of the season.
Yeah, and of course, as soon as I give it credit for great man-to-man defense, they bracket up in a zone, little hook zone, and then just one linebacker on the outside sitting over the top of that. Not a lot of space to thread that ball in. Dangerous airspace indeed. Like you said, Joey, that may be the dagger.
What's the benefit of having a kicker like Paul Sporer? In just a moment, we'll see. Well, as this is going to be, I was trying to time that up well. So as he kicked the extra point, what's the benefit of having a kicker like Paul Sporer? Ball goes through the uprights. You get a lot of good football scores, even numbers of points, like 24, or I suppose the odd numbers, 21. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
get the football scores.
For those at home, Joey's not a big fan of scoregami.
Well, no, don't say that. I do like a scoregami.
Oh,
Don't
lie.
Matt Harrington, our producer, is
the authority.
Oh, my goodness. You'd think he invented the concept, as Sporer finally sends it through the uprights. I mean, Matt will be watching a game. It could be 6 minutes into the first quarter, and he's, oh, we've got a
score got me.
26% chance of seeing the first, the first 44 to 38 score ever.
And you and I, we laughed at a thing we saw on Twitter earlier today about the upcoming Penn State-Iowa game, and it was give the people what they want, and it was a 6-4 final. I'm not sure if that's outside of that game recap, I'm not sure if it was a made-up box score or not. But you got to imagine that is the epitome of Big Ten football and some scoregami.
That sounds like a game straight out of 1923. Right? I mean, 6-4. And I made the point.
The 1-point safety.
It could happen with a 1-point safety on the touchdown and then a field goal in there somewhere.
Oh, what a time to be alive.
That would be. I remember watching a game. Before we get too far off the rails, here's Sporer on for the kickoff. I'll get back to that in a second.
Got to field it.
Canton picks it up at the 1-yard line. This is Norton near sideline.
Stays
going on his feet. He's got some blockers, and he's finally brought down just past the 30.
I don't think I've ever seen someone just continually pirouette their way down the field for about 10 extra yards, Joey. That was something.
Norton has been on top of that spin move. It's been tough to bring down on those kickoffs. But I remember watching a game, that must have been, it probably say it was 10 years ago. A little more than that, because it was right when I first kind of got into football, and we were watching Red Zone. I believe the Colts were playing. Doesn't really matter, the two teams, and the score was 12-0. And I told my dad, I was like, kind of weird that they would miss 2 extra points, right? And he was like, no, of course they didn't do that. They kicked 4 field goals. Probably Adam Vinatieri if it was the Colts. The little things, I suppose, that stick with you, as Oldfield hands it off to Norton, and Norton spun down at the 30.
Speaking of sticking with, Joey, we have not seen Washington's edge defenders stick away from anything that worked in that first half. They have been very solid on edge contain. And, of course, we saw in that last play the outside linebackers and corners able to bracket wide receivers for a pick 6. So this has been a very solid game plan from Washington for all the shortcomings their offense may have had today. And, of course, the turnovers weren't great in the first half, but they've really cleaned it up here in the second. Their defense has never let off the gas.
Oldfield out to the flat, caught by Miller, and again Washington stepping up to make a tackle in what was the open field. E.J. Phillips got there. As much as we can fall into the trope of saying, well, Canton just hasn't been able to get the offense going and kind of keeping it surface level, you're right. Washington's defensive line has won that battle in the trenches, and Canton has had to go a little deeper into the depth chart tonight than maybe they would have liked, but still I've got to imagine this Washington defensive line, the way they've played tonight, they could handle the likes of Kanye Tyler, as they by and large did last week, Seth Glatz for Morton, who they handled with relative ease a couple of weeks ago in week 4.
And again, Joey,
week 5. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just quick point to touch on here. Outside of the few quarterback, undesigned runs that Canton's had today, I mean, Washington has really stymied any chance they've had between the tackles. And when they get to the edge, there's just not enough blocking on the perimeter for Canton to string that up into something big. The times that Washington's gotten burned is when they've just been put out of position just a little bit, and it's cost them a penalty or 2 on what would have been maybe a 2 or 3 yard play.
Canton converts the first down. Canton's still not out of this if they can find a quick score. It's Norton coming around. A flag comes in as Norton stays on his feet, and now everyone's flipping around down there. That play goes just inside the 45.
And there was a great block outside by number 5 in purple. If this comes back, I'm not going to say I just necessarily disagree with the call, Joey, but that was a heck of a block.
A lot of good effort on that play. Connor Rose was the player that got flipped up and popped right back up onto his feet, and it will go against Canton. We'll see if it's on the tight end, Jake Miller. It is. I don't think they called out what the penalty was, but it was against Jake Miller. It was a hold. Perhaps he got the arm up. I don't know. I wasn't paying all that close attention.
Yeah, what do we know? I mean, we're sitting up here in the booth, right? Because the officials have had to be down there on the field. They've obviously had the better view of it, but sitting up here in the cushy booth.
We need a sky judge like the XFL has. Is Norton. Oh, and a couple of players collide there for Washington after the play. Norton's going to go for a big loss. That's Rose a little slow to get up, as well as E.J. Phillips, 41 and 42.
We'll have to put the Sky Judge in the budget for next season, right, Joey?
That would be on the IHSA's budget. It's Country Mile.
Okay.
That's what Matt's trying to point out.
Yeah, we were trying to decipher what Matt was saying out here, but our producer Matt has notified me that is second down in a Country Mile, Joey Wright.
As we talked about, it's what we've been talking about all night long. Cody's definition for blank down and a Country Mile is 23 yards. We see that here.
Oh, and we get extra time with it, too, with the timeout.
I want to take this timeout real quick to look at some scores from around the area, though, before we get to this 2nd and 23. If you like the number 27 or 28, there's some really good games in the area for you right now. Starting with a small school matchup between Leroy and Deer Creek Mackinac. We had a lot of interest ourselves in this one early in the week. 27-28 DMAC, or 28-27 DMAC, I should say. I had that in the opposite order. That is at DMAC. Leroy going right at it with the Chiefs. The Panthers hanging in there. 28 up. Eureka and Ridgeview are knotted up. That's also in the 4th quarter. Good small school battles there. And then it's 28-27 Metamora on 101.1 ESPN. Larry Larson and John Camosa on the call for that one. The ESPN Peoria Friday Football Showcase powered by Clutch Sports Media. So that could be a good one to check out. Bloomington Central Catholic trailing Illinois Valley Central 14-13 at halftime as well. As 2nd and a Country Mile begins with Oldfield throwing it out to Jake Miller. 3rd down in the same distance coming up.
Yep, and as all of our passionate Bears listeners in the general area would say, it is 3rd down. And Canton, believe it or not, Joey, they've been all right on 3rd down. It's just been a couple of shortcomings here and there that have kind of cost them, either it be a penalty or just a slight overthrow, but for the most part, they've been okay in 3rd down and Country Mile distance, but
well, they have been really, they converted a 3rd and 20 earlier.
That's what I'm saying. They're better from behind the sticks.
A 3rd and 10, a 3rd and long a little bit ago with Oldfield. Oldfield has all receivers. Same play design we've seen a couple of times on these situations where Canton's gotten way behind the sticks and got back close to the original line of scrimmage. 2 yards behind it should set up 4th and 12.
Yeah, and it's tough, isn't it, Joey? Because you want to give yourself a fighting chance to get down the field there. And you like the quarterback drop. Like it cuts about what you needed in half, right? Because now we're at 4th down and 12. If you're going to go back to that quads formation, are they going to try and find a route combo that they like to try and throw the ball? Are they going to keep going to that single side coverage?
Canton needs this. 4th and 12. Moving towards us is Oldfield. Had to get rid of it. Fired it out to Dylan Watts. Incomplete. 1st and 10 Washington. And with just about half of the 4th quarter left, the Panthers well in control of this one en route to a 5-2 record on the season. You never want to declare it over before it is. But, Cody, you get the sense that if Washington comes out, hits their marks on a couple plays, the clock is going to start going all that much quicker.
Yeah, and again, like you said, Joey, with 6:32 on the clock, Canton with one timeout. So even if they were, somewhat in the game, so to speak, with the 3rd down, calling the burning it on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and having a stopped clock on 4th, they still wouldn't be able to get the ball back with a whole heck of a lot of time. And so I'd be surprised if this ball is anywhere but the hands of a ball carrier.
Drew Lewis in motion on 1st and 10. He gets the handoff and brought down close to where he started. They give him a gain of maybe a half yard.
You got to give a quick shout out, Joey. This Canton student section, no matter what the score, they've been in the game throughout tonight. They got the thunder or the boom sticks or whatever, the thunder sticks that they've got, the inflatable sticks that you bang together, and they have been loud and vocal tonight.
And this is such a great atmosphere, a great place to watch a game. Our 2nd time out here this season. I want to thank Canton Athletic Director Brad Hewlett for allowing us to come out here. Great hospitality. Really cool, one of the older stadiums in the area, but they've done a great job of keeping up with it. As Lemus gets the carry to the 30-yard line. It's been a lot of fun hanging out up here in the press box. You know, we're right in there with everyone. The clock could be probably a little better, right? I think they've been a little slow to start it on some of these plays, but no, it has been a terrific setup. Thanks to everyone here at Canton High School for letting us come out and have some fun.
Yeah.
Under center is Burlett. Burlett to Lemus, and Lemus brought down for a loss of 2. They'll give him a little forward progress, but not the end of the world here. Is the big thing for Washington is what's the clock doing? Well, it's running just north of 5 minutes to play.
Yeah, and again, they're not really going to put the ball in harm's way here. And to quote the Navy, Army, and Air Force system of playing football, Joey, you can throw the ball and 4 things can happen, and 3 of them are bad. You run the ball, and a lot of times it's just the clock runs and gain 1 or 2 yards, which are good things. So I guess that's kind of philosophy here is keep that clock moving, nickel and dime them for yardage, see where that puts you by the end of the game.
Second and 13. Here's Burlett. Burlett, it's caught by Brock Pollitt, so the Panthers do elect to pass. I believe that's Brock Pollitt's first reception of the evening. And Pollitt has enough for the first down on that catch. Got out of bounds, but that might be a situation where the Panthers trade the clock stoppage for getting the first down and giving them a chance to wind up a couple more plays.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly, Joe. You hit it right on the head. Again, you buy yourself that first down with the yardage, and the clock will run anyway because he was, stalled up inbounds. So
didn't get out of bounds. Was
That's
able
right.
to stay in.
Yeah. So again, they're able to now just sit back, eat up a little bit more of this play clock because it's now down to 10.
And inside of 7 seconds, here's a handoff. Washington goes right back to the run game, takes us inside of 4 minutes to play. And taking a look at what the Washington Panthers have on deck, it's not an easy end to the season for Washington. Looking at this week against a tough Canton team, next week against Metamora. You can watch that game on ClutchSportsIL.com, although I imagine a lot of folks in the area will be there in Washington. That's always a game you circle on the calendar. And Washington airs one up to the end zone, incomplete. Yeah, that was Mapson in on that. Sorry to step on you.
Oh, no. I mean, like you said, for that Metamora game, last one out of town, turn off the lights because there's not going to be anybody in either of those 2 towns left to do much anything, Joey. They're all going to be at the football stadium for what could be the game, the Mid-Illini Conference.
I'll eat a little crow on that one, as that was Drew Lewis, the intended receiver. But, yeah, you can watch on ClutchSportsIL.com, Clutch Sports Media's live coverage. We certainly encourage you to tune in, but if you're able to make it, certainly that's a great atmosphere to be a part of. At Washington this year, at Babcock Field, but whether Babcock Field in Washington or Malone Field in Metamora plays host to it really means no difference because both crowds are going to be huge, as we'll have a timeout on the field charged to Canton, I believe, to Washington, as the Panthers, man, accuracy has gone out the window the last 2 plays, but Canton watches Washington take a timeout. And really, that's me saying in too many words that Washington's got a big one next week against Metamora that could be the difference in getting that 6th win of the season, although they end with East Peoria, a game you'd figure the Panthers would be able to get on paper, but you never know. It's a tough Mid-Illini Conference. That's right.
You play the games for a reason. Every year when March Madness comes around, like, oh, why don't they just book the 16 seeds moving on, or the 1 seeds moving on against 16 seeds? Well, because you have teams like UMBC that come on and just somehow upset teams like Virginia, and so EP may not have a lot to play for in that last game of the season, but Washington will still have to come out and perform.
Here's Washington on 3rd down and 10. And a new quarterback in for Washington. Gets one out to Drew Lewis. And the quarterback for Washington is now Easton Harris, a name you'd recognize from the ball field. So 4th and 10 for Washington.
Yep, and we will come out and watch a field goal attempt here, Joey. So we will see Spoor try and make his 2nd of the game. This one from a considerable longer distance. Ball spotted at about, what is that, Joey? Would you call it the 21?
I believe it's at the 19-yard line. Add 17. It's a 36-yard try for Spoor. Spoor on the way. He's got more than enough.
Wow.
It's good. And that would have been good from 46. Paul Spoor says hello.
Well, Adam Venetario used to always say he kicks his 56 yarders like he does his 46 yarders. He just knows it's going to look a lot better when it goes 10 yards through the goalpost. So I guess that's the thought process there. 27-0, Washington up, Joey, and they are just on cruise control here in half number 2.
27-0 for Washington. Panthers were ahead just 7-0 at halftime, but they've come out in the second half and turned on the Jets. It's been a complete effort in half number 2. The defense, especially that defensive line, has keyed a lot, although Tyler Richardson with a couple of big interceptions tonight might be the defensive player of the game. And then offensively, it has been a great running performance for the Panthers, led by, of course, Thomas Borges, a big 81-yarder that started things off as Sporer pooches it up, fielded at the 30-yard line, and down at the 30-yard line, about right where he started. A flag comes in late.
This is going to be against Canton, Joey.
And that'll back the Little Giants up a little bit. So what's Canton looking to do offensively here, Cody? Just north of 3 minutes left in the game, down 4 scores, as it is officially announced as a hold against Canton. It's high school football. We've seen crazy things happen. But what's Canton looking to do here as they start this drive?
Yeah, to answer your question, Joey, I mean, you're just looking for positives to take into next week. I mean, obviously, again, down your star running back. You're not looking for any excuses, so to speak. It's hard to imagine one player makes up for 27 points, but it would have helped out the ground game a little bit. But you're looking for that spark to say on film, okay, here's where we got better without this, and where can we be better in these certain situations? Like right here.
And that's a great play to start things off from Norton. Joseph Norton stays on his feet. It takes a couple of Panthers to bring him down. E.J. Phillips in on the stop, as well as Tyler Richardson. But that is a tremendous effort from Joseph Norton to get going, get enough for the first down, and it moves the Little Giants to midfield.
Yeah, strong running that time for the Little Giants. Not, again, the greatest blocking up front, but you just keep those legs pounding and churning. Able to tough out a couple more yards, and much like his kick return earlier, just pirouettes down the sideline.
1st and 10 from the 44. It is again a handoff to Norton, and again he goes right after Richardson and Phillips. They will mark that ball right at the chains, and as they place it down, it's going to be about a half yard short of the first down marker. 2nd and inches coming up.
Washington still playing for the shutout here, Joey, so still something to play for Canton.
27-0 does have a better ring to it in the score column than 27-6, 7 or 8, or 3 if the Little Giants could manage a field goal, as they'll move the chains forward. Jake Miller, the ball carrier, needed to get to the 45, got to it. 1st and 10 Canton, clock ticking under 2 minutes. Little Giants starting to move the ball. Likely going to be a little too little, or a little too late. You know what I'm getting after. Just a touch too little. As a big hit, nice catch from Plummer. We've seen Turner Plummer make a lot of plays tonight, Cody. Wouldn't you say he's been Canton's standout receiver?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been scared to throw to him in any, situation or coverage. We saw him make an aggressive catch in double coverage. We saw him with an over-the-shoulder catch with a safety closing in on him. I mean, he has just been, they're answering one-on-one coverage, but so far he just hasn't had a lot of time to get the ball thrown to him.
Oldfield dropping back, works the shoulders, scans the field in front of him, and takes off. And he's brought down. Not before a gain of 4. Third and short, under a minute left to play. Canton looking for the end zone. Washington will improve to 5-2 on the season. They officially will become playoff eligible with this win. Canton will fall to 2-5, and their playoff chances will evaporate. But a Canton team that comes out, plays hard week in and week out, always a lot of fun to watch. As Norton gets the carry, gets to the 36, that would be. It's always a little tricky when you get to the 34, 35, 36, trying to spot what side it is. As we go under 10 seconds left to play. Both teams walk off, and Washington comes out and dominates the second half. They'll win 27-0, their 5th win of the season. Sets up a duel in Washington next week. A storied rivalry. Washington and Metamora will go at it on ClutchSportsIL.com. The Panthers, after a big win last week against Pekin. A little easier tonight, although Canton made them work for it through most of the game. 27-0 your final.
Yeah, and Joey, I'm not sure easy would be the way to describe it. The score kind of not necessarily showing of just how close this game was. Like a defensive score, a couple of turnovers forced late, a lot of penalties, really hurt both sides, but Washington able to stick with the offense a little longer. That's where you get your 27-0 score. So I think Canton came out, proved that their defense can play with anybody. It just came down to they were put in too many bad situations by their offense. It was just short fields, and they fought their hearts out tooth and nail on this offense. Tried to do what they can short-handed, but just came down. Just didn't have the gunpowder to outmuscle this Washington team, which came in on a mission. Like you said, Joey, they have got clear goals heading into next week.
Both teams show a lot of respect to each other in that post-game handshake. Nick Wright and Daryl Crouch, two great head coaches. They run great programs. Nick Wright is only in his 2nd season at the helm of this Canton program. And even though 27-0 jumps out at you in the score column, Cody, as you said, it got a little easier for Washington late, but throughout the first half and even through the first 3 quarters, this outcome was well in doubt. Canton came out and played hard tonight. That was evident, and a great effort. Just fell a little bit short to a really good Washington team. And a couple of scores from around the area before we sign off. Eureka 28, Ridgeview 28 in the 4th quarter. Tied up in a good one. IVC looking for win number 2 on the season. They have a brief, or a small lead would be the better way to put that. 14-13 over Bloomington Central Catholic at halftime. Morton 56, East Peoria 20. That game has gone final. Dunlap 39, Limestone scoreless. Another final score to report there. And Pekin edges Metamora 35-28 final score at Malone Field. That's a game we had our eye on tonight. Peoria 60, Champaign Central 6. DMAC holds off Leroy 28-27. We brought you that score earlier when it was in the 4th quarter. Farmington continues to roll 44-8 over Elmwood Brimfield, and that's a good EB team that the Farmington Farmers take down tonight. That is the area scoreboard. And Cody, we had our eyes on that Pekin Metamora game all evening long. That's the Redbirds' 2nd loss of the season and 2nd in a row to a good Pekin team that lost a heartbreaker last week at home against Washington.
And I was just going to say, how many people were ready to write off Pekin after week 4? I mean, it seemed like the world had turned for him and then against him in a matter of just 24 hours after that game. They were ready to cast him off into the abyss, but here come Pekin, and they are, rolling along, Joey. They don't necessarily control their own destiny, but they are throwing their hat into the ring, so to speak.
Well, and that's a great bounce-back win after losing last week on a last-second heartbreaker against Washington. You and I were there on the call for ESPN Radio that night on 101.1. That was about as crushing a loss as you can have. And Morton got Metamora last week, so both teams coming in off losing streaks. Hasn't been, or one-game losing streaks, but still, hasn't been a common sight this week. And Pekin gets the job done. As we'll start to wrap things up, I'm Joey Wright with Cody Roskins, and a quick shout-out to our entire team. Matt Harrington getting the job done tonight. He had to overcome a little adversity as our scoreboard camera went out on us. And they had us in the first half, not going to lie, but we put a little bit of a workaround in place for the second half, and Matt Harrington comes out and dominates the game clock, wins the battle. Jonathan Michael, a great job on our game camera, as always. And then back in our Peoria studios, Josh Schwam and Francisco Alonso on site here in Canton. those guys teaming up to knock it out of the park on social media. And again, with Cody Roskins, I'm Joey Wright. This has been the Mid-Illini Conference Game of the Week on ClutchSportsIL.com. Mark your calendars. Join us next week, same time, 7:30, kickoff, Washington and Metamora, a storied rivalry. But for now, thank you for watching.